We're live.
Broadcasting?
Yes.
Sweet. Good morning. So we're here on day 3. We're approximately, 42 and a half-ish hours into a 48-hour challenge. My name's John. I'm here at Centerline Digital. Real quickly to level set again, if this is the first one of these videos you're seeing, we are Centerline Digital. We're a digital marketing agency in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're doing something with ShelterBox, which is an amazing organization. We'll let Chris and Kelly tell you more about that in a second. But we're doing something with ShelterBox. They are an organization that helps people in their most dire need, the people who have been affected by natural disasters. They have an amazing ability to get supplies, shelter, and other supplies to people within 48 hours of these natural disasters happening. And we're working on Lab517, which is a 48-hour marketing challenge. With ShelterBox, we're working on solving 5 marketing challenges for this great organization. And like most nonprofit organizations, they don't always have all the marketing budget and all the marketing time in the world to take care of things, especially when you're trying to market things that are not around those natural disasters. Natural disasters, I believe you said, are easy to market around to say people, and here's why you should donate, but it's the times in between that are the harder ones. So we're working on some of those challenges. We've been talking a bit about those all through the last few videos. But this morning here in our final push on those, I'd rather just give Chris and Kelly a little bit of time to talk a little bit more about ShelterBox. We can talk a little bit about all the projects we're working on together and what that will do. But first, let's start with, if y'all can just tell us who you all are and what you do with ShelterBox.
Sure. So I'm Kerri and I'm the president of ShelterBox USA. And I'm joined by
Chris Alexander. I'm the comms manager.
All right, so, and you all are here from where? Where do you normally reside? Where are you parked with ShelterBox?
So we represent ShelterBox USA, and we have our headquarters, which is based in Sarasota, Florida, and then we have ShelterBox West, where I'm located, which is on the West Coast in California.
Gotcha. And so ShelterBox US is one part of how many different pieces of the grander ShelterBox organization?
So ShelterBox was founded in 2000 in Cornwall, England, and it was actually a Rotary project. Rotary, the largest service organization in the world. It was founded there, and it has quickly grown across the world. So now there's 18 different affiliates. So spanning from ShelterBox Australia to ShelterBox Canada and USA to ShelterBox Germany. So we're a global organization. We've worked in now about 95 countries. We've responded to 270 massive emergencies around the world. And since this organization started, we've helped over 1 million people with shelter.
270, you said 270 natural disasters, is that right?
Disasters and conflict.
Disasters and conflict, okay. So it's not just natural disasters, it's other things as well, right? Anytime that people are in the most dire need, correct?
Yeah, so when people think of like crisis situations, they think of things like the earthquake in Haiti, the tsunami in Japan, typhoons, cyclones, fires,
Volcanoes, flooding.
But there's also obviously civil unrest, and so a group like ShelterBox not only responds, on the worst day ever when, like obviously yesterday the earthquake hit in Japan. We're working to mobilize, and if we're needed, we will respond there. But we work on other emergencies as well in crisis situations like the Syrian refugee crisis, which ShelterBox has been responding since 2012.
And Kerri, I'm sorry, I think I called you Kelly a minute ago. Sorry about
Right.
that. Kerri, you were talking the other day when you were doing the client brief and talking about some of the challenges. You said that there's usually, it's about one disaster or one response every 2 weeks. And that most people like me don't even actually know that's going on. So tell me a little bit, if you will, about how the operation works. Obviously, people donate and you put together these boxes, and then they go places and they sit in waiting, right, so that they're ready to go at a time. But how does that work? Where do they get stored? How does the whole donation process and delivery work?
So each year, millions of people, and it's actually to the tune of tens of millions of people, lose absolutely everything in disaster and crisis situations. Most of those situations will never make the headlines. Most people will never know about them. Last month, the strongest storm ever recorded on the southern hemisphere hit the island nation of Fiji. Most people didn't hear about that. It happened right before Super Tuesday, and it barely broke the headlines. And so it's those really massive, large-scale emergencies like Haiti, like Japan, like the Nepalese earthquake last year, that really garner the headlines and public attention and ultimately private charitable donations. But for an organization like ShelterBox, we really couldn't exist on those major emergencies, which may be the ones that break the headlines, that are known globally. They probably occur every 18 to 24 months. But it's the life-saving work beyond those is the ones that don't make the headlines, where you have oftentimes tens of thousands of people that have been displaced and lost everything. And there are basic things that you need, food, water, shelter services, access to medicine. ShelterBox focuses on shelter and providing essential supplies as well as a tented shelter for people who've lost everything. So in order for us to do the work that we do, and you mentioned 20 some odd emergencies, we respond on average every 2 weeks. So on average about 26 different emergencies. Last year, while everyone heard about the Nepalese earthquake, which ShelterBox responded to, we were also responding to the Syrian refugee conflict. We were also in Cameroon and Nigeria. We also were in Malawi, the worst flooding in the history of the country. Tens of thousands of people displaced. And so when those crises occurs, and especially the ones that don't make the headlines, they're oftentimes ShelterBox is the only shelter-based charity that shows up. And so in order for us to do that work, it's a model of pre-positioning, where we pre-position and we have supplies on hand ready to deploy at a moment's notice in pre-positioned depots and warehouses around the world. And Chris can share with you kind of where some of those are and how the model by which we operate and how we deploy those and get those where they need to go.
Yeah, so we package these different types of aid, and it's important to note that the shelter boxes are the iconic aid that we deliver, but we also deliver different types of aid, like the shelter kit and palletized aid that consists of what's critically needed in this situation. Sometimes they don't need tents, but they need water filters or solar lanterns. And so we want to provide the most critically needed aid to the beneficiaries. And so our equipment is packaged and stored in locations around the world, like Dubai, Italy, and Nairobi. And those places change depending on what we feel are the most vulnerable areas. And certainly, places like Haiti, the Philippines, they're prone to natural disaster, and we need quick access to those areas. In the case of the Fiji disaster that happened last month, we were able to pull equipment from Australia, which expedited the process. To pull equipment from England, from the international headquarters, would take a huge amount of time and resources. So to be able to pull that equipment from a nearby location just expedites the process and makes ShelterBox way more effective.
Right. So let's tilt a little bit. It's amazing, first of all. It's incredible that you have the organization to be able to do all this, to pull in the donations, to actually get all those places set and ready to go so that they can be deployed so quickly and respond that rapidly is fairly incredible, a feat all by itself. The fact that you're doing it probably on minimal staff and minimal overhead working budget and all that other stuff makes it even more amazing. Which tilts a little bit more into, we're working on, and we've mentioned it before, working on 5 challenges that you all came up with. It was about donor transparency, about understanding where your money comes from and goes to. It was about getting the right type of content to ambassadors so they can tell the right message, and there's a few others. Tell us a little bit about what those challenges are, where they came from, and then what we're doing here over the 48 hours to help address those, if you can.
Sure. I think, obviously, I mentioned that there are many emergencies that never make the headlines. Right. And in general, if it bleeds, it leads. And it's on the worst day ever that people really tend to stand up and take notice and donate to charities like ShelterBox. But most of the emergencies that we're responding to on an annual basis never make the headlines. And so for a group like ShelterBox that relies on private donations, so we don't accept public funds. All the money is coming from private charitable donations from individuals, corporations, and foundations. And in order to do the work, reposition the supplies, and be ready on the worst day ever, we need to procure and get the teams ready and trained and that requires funding, critical funding, and not just those massive emergencies that you hear about every 2 years. So one of the critical issues that we face is how to raise awareness of the work of ShelterBox on an ongoing basis, right, of the work that we're doing around preparedness. How do we gain support for the organization before the worst day ever? But there's lots of that. You know, we're preparing every single day for that day. And we're responding 26 times a year with our teams. So how do we keep awareness high? How do we start to raise support and mobilize more resources so we can continue to increase the life-saving work of ShelterBox? What we found around the world is there is no shortage of demand for the work. We are only precluded, and our ability to scale is only hindered by our ability to raise awareness and ultimately mobilize more donations for the work. And so that's one of the critical things that we face. And I think as a digital marketing agency, what you know probably very well is good marketing rewards good marketing. And there are so many humanitarian organizations doing great work that don't put money in advertising and marketing, and we're really putting our efforts and our funding into the programs, which is what donors want, right? But we're only able to fulfill this mission if people know about us and know about the work. So the opportunity to partner with a world-class agency like Centerline is like a tremendous gift for the organization, and being able to tap into the creative talents of an agency that, in my estimation, is the absolute best I've ever worked with. The entrepreneurial spirit, the passion, and just the creativity and commitment to really helping come together over 48 hours, tackle some of these issues that we're facing, and come up with like such innovative solutions that without a doubt is going to help propel the organization further and ultimately to help us serve more people around the world. So we're deeply appreciative of the efforts of everyone over the past few days, and it's exciting to get to the big reveal. We're like,
we're only about 3 hours away or something, 2.5 hours, something like that.
No pressure.
No, not at all. Not on me. It's all on them out there making sure it happens. Well, thank you very much. I think that what you'll find too in responses, or at least I've seen it walking around, is a lot of the energy that you're seeing coming out of folks is, it's twofold. First of all, it's because there is excitement that naturally goes along with solving a problem rapidly. You get the heightened sense of interest and engagement when it's solving a problem for something that's such a worthy cause, not just for marketing, it's marketing for cause that really gets people energized and moving on that. So I had a chance yesterday to walk around and film a little bit of some folks working on different things and see a sneak preview. They were really excited to talk about how what they had learned so fast. I've been impressed by how rapidly people absorbed your all's mission and could re-verbalize it and then put it into that work, which is pretty impressive. But I'd love to hear from you, Chris, perhaps some of the stuff that you're seeing. What are some of the manifestations of some of the marketing that you're seeing getting created here, and what is that going to do for you all? What's some of the specifics? Yeah,
so it's been an amazing experience because the tempo and the collaboration that's happening from the get-go has been phenomenal. So, we stepped in with the kickoff now 2 days ago, and it was energizing, and everybody just was ready to go. And then they took off. We issued our challenges. The team split up and took on these challenges, and they generate a ton of ideas, and then they drill down to the very best of those ideas and immediately get to work on them. And so, we started seeing their ideas come to life, and at certain points they'd come by and say, okay, this is what we're thinking. Are we on point with the message? Are we using the right imagery? And we'd say, change a word here, change a picture there, but ultimately, at every point along the way, I get more excited because the deliverables I know are going to be on point. And for me, as the entire marketing staff for ShelterBox USA, it's a huge relief to know that I'm going to have all of these assets that I couldn't have built, or I could have, but it would have taken me years in what you guys did in 2 days. So I now have the ability to market ShelterBox with these phenomenal assets that are creative and can be used in multiple formats across a broad spectrum of social media or internet or print. And it's very exciting for me to have all of that arsenal in my toolkit.
It's incredible.
It is.
I'm going to pick on one in particular because this one's I thought it was interesting that it was a challenge that you all have. You have ambassadors that are out there telling the ShelterBox story. And you've got a need to make sure that story is told in their own voice, but in a consistent way. And I know that one of the projects that was being worked on was that there's a portal for people to go and find information and be able to get the content that they want to be able to use on that. And that's one of the challenges that they're taking on, which doesn't really seem like it's creating any content at all, but it's just more around the idea of how people find the right content. Tell me a little bit more about that specific challenge. How many ambassadors are out there? What kind of content are they using, and how does that work?
So, ShelterBox is really fortunate in that it has an incredible team of volunteers, and they're called ShelterBox ambassadors. They're located around the country. There are hundreds of them. Active ambassadors, I would say we've got to have about 200. And there's a special portal that they are able to go on to be able to pull down relevant information when they're delivering presentations. So whether it's at a fair or a Rotary Club or a school or an institution, they have basically a whole platform by which they can go to a portal and pull down relevant information, PowerPoint decks and photographs. And I think in doing the overall assessment, the team from Centerline found that there are basically like 150 different assets on this portal. So it's pretty massive. They, I think, assessed that the content is very good. However, I think there were definitely some opportunities to look at how we're organizing this and how are we streamlining this to making it user-friendly to ensure that our ambassadors are able to find the relevant information that they're looking for, build great presentations, and really, I think, have some consistency across the ambassadors in the messaging. So being able to tweak and provide some clarity around what the messages are. And then, an opportunity for them to obviously personalize and customize it, as you said, to make it their own. But there was an opportunity to really strengthen the portal, organize it more effectively, I think streamline it. And we're really excited to see the outputs of that challenge because we know how important those ambassadors are to the work of ShelterBox. On average, the ambassadors, they raise about a third of the overall charitable donations that come in for the organization. So their efforts, and each of them, they do about 1 to 2 activities a month, getting out to clubs and getting out to various institutions. And we want to give them the resources to help empower them to get out there and get excited about the organization and continue to garner awareness and support.
And I think another thing that excites me about what's going to be delivered to ShelterBox are not just the physical assets, but strategies on how to use them. And specifically with the portal, they've talked about giving us strategies on how to empower the ambassadors, better empower them to use the assets. And that's exciting for us. We need that kind of inspiration.
We're going to get back to it in just a minute. We're going to be back in about 2.5 hours or so to look at some of the finished product. We'll have the live stream going on that. You get to, actually eat, maybe take a little bit of downtime, talk about some of those things that are going on. But like I said, I've been trying on some of the earlier streams to really talk a little bit about how other people can get involved, how you can donate, what happens with your donation. It's going to come much better from you all. So if you can, tell the viewers, tell the folks who watch this video later, how can they best get involved? How do they donate? Where do they go? Is it just shelterbox.org, or is there more to it than that? And where can they learn about stuff right now?
Right. So ShelterBox USA relies on private charitable donations. The best place for information is shelterboxusa.org. And there you can make a charitable donation to the organization. And there's a variety of ways that people can participate. And in addition to shelter boxes, the iconic green boxes Chris mentions that we send, we also send shelter kits. We send school kits as well to children that have been displaced and they don't have, obviously, a school to go to. So there's a variety of different types of supplies that are very much beneficiary focused based on the unique needs of the situation that we are deploying in. But we really do rely on charitable donations, and I think the nice way for people to get involved is sustained giving. So not everybody can go and give a donation of $100 today, But they can give $10 a month or $25 a month, and so we would encourage people to go online to ShelterBox USA and make a donation and any amount that they can. And we certainly appreciate all of the efforts of Centerline this week, and it's just been a tremendous partnership, and we're thrilled to see the outputs.
Yeah.
And I think another way that people can support ShelterBox is to follow us on social media. They can get updates on disasters that we're responding to in real time. And you can follow us on Facebook at ShelterBox USA or Twitter at ShelterBox US.
Right. And if there's a hashtag Lab517 right now at ShelterBox US, any of these ways you can see what's going on right now, what's been the process, what types of content and challenges are being taken on. But like I said, we're going to get back to it. We've got about 2 hours or so to finish up a lot of these things. We'll be back online in a couple hours. But Kerri and Chris, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.